talk show. This is a talk show regarding all things top lane. If you guys like this talk show and enjoy this talk show, I go live every day at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can find my schedule on my twitch.tv channel. If you're watching this on YouTube or any other type of media source, I will have the link to the channel in the description. Today we are discussing why do I play Mundo and how can you find success in playing in Mundo. Now, I myself in Season 7 have 604 ranked games on Mundo played, have a 56% win rate, which I think is pretty good. I believe if you have above 50% win rate on a specific champion, especially if you're main, the more games you have, as long as you're above 50%, you are winning consistently, so therefore you are climbing consistently. First off, what I want to start off with is who is Mundo. So those who are brand new to Mundo, or if you've never played Mundo before, or you know, you're unfamiliar with what his kit does, Mundo is a tank. All right. Even those who have played Mundo, that's what they know of him. He's a tank, and there's a lot of jokes in the community calling him a raid boss. And the reason why that is, he can get so ridiculously tanky, 4K plus health, and you can fight him for 5 minutes, get him ridiculously low. He's out of the team fight for 10 seconds. He comes back in, and he's full health again. And that's what makes him so good. Is just an insane amount of health regen. Some of his other strengths, obviously, as we discussed, he can absorb a massive amount of damage in team fights, so a lot of ultimates are more than likely going to be blown on him. So you take out a lot of their abilities to fight, and then you can just go back, heal back up, and come back in. His split push potential, although it's not really highlighted, most users that play him, it is very good. He has a lot of damage with his E for towers. He has pretty good dueling potential, not as good as like a Jax or a Nasus, but pretty good dueling potential, especially when you're ahead. And then he has his R, his ultimate, that you can use for an escape. So your split push is going to determine whether or not your ultimate's up, but it's definitely a free pass once they start coming at you. You're really tanky and you can escape because of your ultimate, and his farming mechanics are pretty good as well. He's got his E that he can use when he's behind and he's a farm from a distance. He has his E that he can use when the wave pushes into the tower to help him farm. So for example, like a caching mini might take an auto, a turret shot, and an auto, whereas Mundo, you can let the turret hit it and just eat it real quick, and then you automatically get the farm. So easy farming mechanics. You can also use Q to help you farm the tower as well if something's off a little bit in the health, so you auto it and it's not enough damage, and turret physics comes, just Q it really quickly and you get that free farm. There's not a lot of bad matchups on Mundo. There are a few, especially those that have hard CC, and we'll get that in a minute in his weaknesses. But there are a few, but not many. And sometimes a lot of his bad matchups you can outplay because he's not a very commonly played champion. So a lot of people just don't know how to play against him. So this makes really good. The ball's in your court, right? You know what their champion does, but they don't know what your champion does. And because he's hardly ever played, he's hardly ever banned, which is another perk. If he's never banned and you one-trick him like myself, you don't have to worry about your champion being taken away from you. If it's a bad matchup, you know, you got a couple of champions in your court to play against it, but you don't have to worry about your main champion being banned. Now, some of his weaknesses, right? We were talking about how good Mundo is. Some of his weaknesses, you know, he's not without his flaws. He struggles against anything hard CC, right? And the reason being this is he works off a regen. So if somebody assists you still and they're bursting you down, you need time to not take damage and kite around to be able to heal back up and be essentially that raid box that Mundo is. But if they make you sit still and you got to take everything they're giving to you, you're going to die pretty quickly. He does not have hard CC, so most tanks like Maokai and other champions, they have hard CC built into their kits that make them really useful within team fights. Mundo is just a walking punching bag pretty much. He doesn't have any hard CC. He's got a few slows in his favor, but that's it. He doesn't have like a Maokai root or nothing crazy. So you won't be able to peel as much as what normal tanks do. Essentially, you're just a wall and you're just in the way. And he doesn't have any dashes or major escapes. He does have his ultimate that he can use to escape, but it's not very consistent. It's a minute cooldown, so after you split push and you burn it, you pretty much got to recall, cash in that gold you had, and then go back to the lane that you want to split push. And obviously he struggles, like I said, against burst damage. Mundo's skill points, this is what's going to be different than a lot of people when they play Mundo to compare to me. And this just comes from experience and the way I play lane and what I found success within Mundo. But the skills points, I take Q first, I take E second, his Q third, and his W fourth. And the reason why I do this is because his Q is where majority of your damage majority of damage comes from. Mundo's weak early game. He's a very scaling-oriented champion. So early game, you don't have a lot of pressure. So you take the Q first to help you farm from the distance. You can also poke and harass your opponent if you're waiting for minions to go down, especially if you're just trying to freeze the lane. So it's very good as far as farming and poking. His E, obviously, is going to help you farm. It can be used for trading if your opponent's trying to dive you within the minion wave because they got the level 2 advantage or what have you. Taking your E in Q second, we'll get to his power spikes here in a minute. But taking those two abilities first will actually give you good trading potential, so you get your level 2 advantage over your opponent. I take Q third, right? And this is the difference. I don't get his full kit. I don't get his W third. The reason being is Mundo, when he is low on levels, his health is pretty low. And all his abilities cost health to use, right? So that W early on is literally putting a grievous wounds on you, right? And that's one of the biggest itemizations against Mundo is if you're versing Mundo, you build grievous wounds, it drastically reduces his healing. That's the reason why I take the W last or fourth, because earlier levels I cannot trade until I get some health and get some levels to me. So I don't take the W because it's not going to help you farm. It's doing very little damage. And all it's going to do in the fight, if you're trying to trade with them, is probably end up killing you, actually. So that's why I take it fourth. And I take the Q second because the difference between level 1 Q and the level 2 Q, the points, it helps you dramatically in your farm. Dramatically. Because it feels like when you hit a minion and you only got 1 point in Q, you're barely doing any damage to it. Whereas if you are off a little bit, but you got 2 points with that extra damage in there, it's going to take out that much more. Now, the way I max his abilities, obviously you're going to take his ultimate first, just like with almost any champion. You're going to take his Q second. The reason being is Q, it does a lot more damage to your opponent earlier on than what your E is going to do. Your Q does a percentage on the maximum health of your opponent, and the percentage is very wide. I think it starts out at 15%. Whereas his E does it has a base damage, but it does 2.5. Like that's where you get the damage from. It does a maximum health of Mundo's health. I mean, it has a maximum effect off of Mundo's health. So it does 2.5% starting out of Mundo's current health, right? And if you only got 600 health, you're only doing, you're not doing much damage there. But once you are in the higher levels and you have more items to you and a lot more health, that E is going to do a lot more damage. So your Q early on is going to do more damage for you, and it's going to be more consistent. And you can also use it to poke, so you can use it when you're behind, you can use it when you're ahead, you can use it when you chase down opponents. You can use it when you're escaping opponents because it has a soul if you're trying to run away from them. Whereas E is only used for trading and laning. And it doesn't do much damage early. So that's the reason why I max Q second after the R, priority-wise. Then I'll max his E third, and then I'll take his W last. And the W, it does damage, yes, but it scales off of magic damage, and you're not going to build magic items for Mundo. You're not going to build AP with them. So it's good, but it's just a little extra damage. It's nothing crazy. So that's the reason why I max that last. Mundo's Ruins. I will go Grassy Undying. I honestly feel that is the only way to go in Mundo. Great trading. It works off of a health percentage again, because that's what you're building with Mundo is you're itemizing for health. It's got more sustain, so it helps you regen. It's just overall, it's just the best keystone for him. I do take Demolish. I think Demolish is a very powerful ruin right now for top laners, especially since Demolish works off of your champion's max health. So Mundo mid game to late game is doing almost 1,000 damage. Late game he is doing over 1,000 damage to a tower when he gets that Demolish off. So 8 seconds in his tower, boom, 1,000 damage right there, not counting the damage you already applied to it. So you're gonna take damage, or you're gonna take towers out really quickly. Now, within the second point, whether you take the armor skin or you take the other one that gives you MR, usually most of the time I just leave it in the last one where it gives you both magic resist and magic resist and armor after 10 minutes. The reason being is earlier on you don't do too much fight with Mundo, so you might as well take the keystone that's going to give you the maximum amount of it's going to be really efficient later in the game when you're actually just scaling with Mundo. Because earlier on you're not really trying to look for a fight. You usually play off your opponent's missing up, and then you punish them more so than you're diving him and trying to kill him. So it's better to take the scaling one. Now his last one, I usually go conditioning just because of in the last result tree. I do go conditioning just because earlier on you are trying to scale, so you take the thing that's going to replace your health when you're taking damage. That way, it also helps your regen. It's working off your regen. So definitely take the one that's going to sustain you in your laning phase and make you scale up, especially if you're brand new to Mundo. You may not win a lot of trades because you don't understand Mundo's power spikes as well, and you don't understand his damage as much. So you want to take the one that's going to help you in the long run. And I usually go domination for his second tree. I go cheap shot, which does 2 damage when your opponent is slow because his Q will slow his opponent. And then I take the one Relentless Hunter that will actually give you health back when you use your abilities. So when you're using your abilities that take health away from you, like your Q will take a certain percentage of health, your E will take a certain percentage, and your W takes a certain number of health per second. So when you use your abilities, you're actually gaining health back. Like it's taken away, but it's immediately getting replaced. So you definitely want that for your second tree within your keystones. Now I won't go over his laning phase, Mundo's laning phase. When you're Mundo, you're a scaling tank, okay? You want to play safe, alright? If you're experienced with him, you understand his power spikes more, you can be a little more aggressive. That's going to come in time. But if you're brand new to him, play safe, alright? And I'll go over his power spikes here in a minute. Keep your wards up because earlier levels, you are gankable. You do not have your ultimate. Your ultimate is the only escape. Your only escape. So definitely play safe, other than your flash. But you blow out flash, now you're just getting camped, and they're going to keep waiting until you slip up, you move up too far because they're wanting to get you because you don't have that flash. Now, when you are pushed in, you're going to use Mundo's Q, as we discussed before, to farm from the distance. Use it to poke your opponent. Sometimes if your opponent's trying to play aggressive, you can poke them like 8 or 10 times with your Q, and then you can actually turn it, and you're actually pushing in now just because they're so low. He uses E's that help you farm the tower, as we discussed before, and just play safe. That's all you got to do is Mundo. You're going to scale. If you're playing so safe, your opponent gets 15 CS to hide, don't stress it. You're a tank. You're going to scale. It's not that big of a deal. You'll still win games like that. Alright, until you get more experience in Mundo, he can be a little more aggressive in the laning phase. But usually, even if he's pushing you on his tower, don't be afraid to get pushed on his tower. Understand how to farm on his tower, and use Mundo's abilities to assist you in farming his tower. You don't even have to be that great at it, with the Mundo. Mundo will do it for you. Your caster minions, you don't have to time it properly. Let the turret hit, just eat it right off the bat. That AD, it gives Mundo's like extra. It gives him extra AD after he's the first minion. So you can keep eating caster minions while your E's on cooldown and still have that same effect. Same way when you're pushing in towers. You E it once, you're going to get extra AD off that. So make sure you're spamming that E because you're going to do more damage to towers over time. Now, when you push up, when you are pushing up, alright, a lot of people they make the mistake of, hey, I got this guy pushed up, so I'm going to sit here underneath tower and harass him with my Q and maybe make him miss 2 minions, right? Don't be that guy. It's really dumb. The only time you want to do that is your opponent really low, and you're either preventing them from recalling or you're trying to snipe them so you can kill them, right? Don't just sit there, because all you're doing is begging for that jungler to gank you. I don't care if you got wards up. You're so far away from your tower that you got to run a marathon just to get back to the tower. So the wards won't even matter at that point, and they're going to brush you. They're going to rush you. They're not just going to sit there and wait and see if you keep trying to harass them in the tower. You're maximum distance possible. They're going to rush you. So when you push up, right? If you're winning your lane, you need to win other lanes too, okay? So go and do a try farm, right? I'll do another whole talk over that eventually within this talk show, talking about how to farm as top laner, but do your triangular farm. If you want to know what that is, definitely look that up. It's really useful as a top laner. Go through your Scuttle Crab, farm the Scuttle Crab. That gives you extra vision for ganks. It helps out your jungler, making sure that he's not being invaded. And it'll also help out the mid laner as well. And it'll give you, if you're just sitting there underneath tower and harassing your opponent, you're not getting experience, nor are you getting gold, right? Because the tower's taking your wave out, and you gotta wait till the wave pushes back up. So go to that Scuttle Crab, get that extra gold, get that experience, and help out your other laners. Go to the enemy jungler and ward that jungle buff. That's on either side, whether it be the red buff or the blue buff, depending on what side you spawn at. If you ward that and you know where the jungler's at on the map and it's up, take the buff. Now you're winning the jungler game. The jungler, like, he's just that much ahead of his jungler. You got that much XP lead, you got that much gold, and a Mundo with the red buff, if you're winning lane and you come back with the red buff, you're going to just be that much stronger than that guy. You got that that red buff damage going on. So definitely help out your jungler. Definitely help out your mid laner, and keep an eye out for teleports. You should always be taking teleport from Mundo. All right, don't take Ignite. You're a scaling champion. You're not trying to kill them early. So definitely take the teleport, okay? I mean, look out for those TP plays. And if you're pushing up, you should not be using teleport for lane, right? If you are winning that lane, you as a top laner should not be using that teleport for yourself. You shouldn't be using it selfishly at that point. If you're behind and you guys killing you or he's getting ahead of you, yeah, use it for your lane. You don't want that guy to get way ahead and he's just diving you consistently, right? That's a little bit more understandable. But you're winning top, save that teleport for that bot lane, especially as a Mundo. A Mundo of raid boss coming in, raid boss incoming, you're going to tear them up. I'm telling you. So now we cover the laning phase. Let's go over matchups, right? The matchups that you'll experience in laning phase, all right? And then it's also affect whether or not you want to play Mundo in champion select. Mundo is great against AP. All right, great against AP. He loves Spirit Vision, his first item, because he goes off of all his kits based off of health regen, right? His passive is health regen, his ultimate is health regen. You bring on health regen items, and then you use for Spirit Vision that gives you a buff, a 30% buff in your healing capabilities. You're just that much, you're just that much better. So he loves AP opponents. Teemo, like the annoying little Teemo, is not a problem for Mundo. I beg for a Teemo when I play Mundo. I beg for it. Come on, pick Teemo. I don't care if you got Ignite. I'm still gonna win, right? He can struggle against sustained champions, so I'm talking about he's strong against AP. Maokai is actually a problem for him, and so is Vladimir. The reason being is, yeah, you have sustain yourself and you have regen, but they're consistently healing. A lot of times you just can't do enough damage because you're not a bursty champion. You're pretty consistent in the damage that you do, and they just sustain off of it. You can itemize to try to prevent this. I don't recommend it though. Just understand that you're in that type of matchup. If they mess up, if you mess up, right, you just don't beat those sustained matchups. Because if you are going against the same matchup, you're building a Legendary Torment. That's what I'm talking about. Legendary Torment is how you customize against it, right? I was trying to save the items till later, but Legendary Torment is how you customize against it. And ultimately, just understand that that's an item that specifically affects that person. You just need to be a tank, and you need to carry that lead over. If you can't win your lane opponent, you can't beat them, right? It's just a neutral thing. Farm it out, scale up, and then go to other lanes. Get those scuttle crabs, steal little jungler buffs, use your teleport plays. Win the other lanes, right? Win the other lanes. Don't worry about your lane. He's not going to kill you either. He's a tank, or he's a champion that's not very bursty. So just win your other lanes. And you're not a bursty champion. You're not going to beat them in a sustained game. Now, he does struggle against champions that burst or champions that heavily snowball. You can beat these champions sometimes if you get leagues ahead of them. Like if I'm playing a York, for example, that guy counters Mundo hard. Jack's late game counters Mundo hard. Tremere late game counters Mundo hard. You can customize against these guys, and that's what you have to do. You have to customize in order to beat these guys. But at the end of the day, though, they are still very tough to beat. And in order for you to customize against them, you have to last so long against them until you're able to build the items that are needed to beat them. Okay? Just play safe against these champions. If you happen to get a bad matchup like that, just play safe and just be a tank late game. Don't worry about it. Customize against them. That's the thing. If you're playing safe, you can get those items later and just start beating them. Okay? I'm going to go over Mundo's power spikes now. So with these matchups and these laning phase, obviously you need to know his power spikes. Level 2 is a big thing for him because you got your Q and your E. So if you get that level 2 advantage, start pressing up on your enemy right before you hit level 2, and definitely take advantage of that. These champions I was mentioning, like Trinamir, Nasus, Warwick, and Alawi, and people like that, get that level 2 advantage, show them who's boss early, and now they have to scale up to catch back up to you in order to be the counter to you. Level 4, not a lot of people know this. I consider level 4 on Mundo is really good, right? When I got my full kit, I think they do decent amount of damage. My Q does decent amount of damage. I think I have a huge power spike here, and a lot of times I'm a lot more aggressive in Mundo at level 4. I'm not saying all in them and ignore the mini wave, but you definitely want to trade at this point, right? And level 6, obviously level 6, right? If you get level 6 over your opponent before he does, definitely keep pushing up. And you can dive the mini wave pretty effectively here because of your massive health regen, all right? But don't do this if you're starting off low, right? So level 2, take advantage of your opponent, bully him out lane, show him who's boss. Level 4, start trading good. When you hit level 6, you can that trading you just did at level 4 and up will come into effect when you hit level 6, and they're pretty low health, they're half health, and you just run them down with the ultimate. Itemization, right? This is a big thing. The itemization of Mundo, and I think a lot of people are curious with itemization. How do you itemize with him? Mundo has three core items. He has his Spirit Vision, Sunfire Cape, and Warmongs. Now, depending on who your opponent and depending on who you're versing will depend on what item routes are you going. Are you going against Teemo as AP? You need to build Spirit Fissure. Same way if you're going against a Rumble or somebody like that. Now, if you're going against somebody that's AD, you might want to consider Sunfire Cape because of the AD, and that's a really good. The passive effect on Sunfire Cape, considering it got buffed here recently, and it's got more damage done to champions. You know, it's got really good dueling capabilities. And Warmongs is definitely not is more of a third item you built, more so than switching between Spirit Visions and Sunfire Cape. Sometimes if I'm versing an opponent that I know I'm going to be stuck in lane with and he's AP, I might go with Spirit Visions, then Warmongs, and then Sunfire Cape. Sometimes if I'm versing an AD opponent, I'll go Sunfire Cape, Warmongs, Spirit Visions. That's only if I'm going to be stuck in lane. But usually you get the two, especially if like one's AD and the jungler's AP and you're getting camped. This way you got something a little bit for both of them. So you want to customize depending on the opponent, and the Warmongs typically is going to be a third item for you. All right, but those are the 3 core items: maximum amount of regen, and then it's got good dueling capabilities as a tank items. And they also have massive amount of health. And Mundo, as we discussed before, all his abilities do damage based on his health, and including his ultimate, including Mundo's ultimate. The more health you have, the more health regen you're going to have because it regens 60% of your health. Other items that I would consider on Mundo, so that's 3. Obviously, you're going to have your boots. Your boots are going to be customized to your opponents. So those are 4 item slots right there. So you got 2 more item slots. So the items that I recommend are Thornmail, Gargoyle Soul Plate, Frozen Mallet, and Radiant's Omen. Right? Those 4 right there. And then depending on what you're versing is going to depend on what you're going to be fighting. I mean, what you're going to be building. All right? So to give you some examples of which one you want to build when, a Gargoyle Stone Plate you want to build when your opponent is very bursty. So if they got a Vigar on the other side, I'm afraid this guy's going to one-shot me. You want a Gargoyle Stone Plate within your kit somewhere. The reason being is, like, shit, I got stunned. This guy's throwing everything at me. He's fixing all of me. I hit Gargoyle Stone Plate. It maximizes my health, giving me the ability to take more damage. Okay? Very good item to stop somebody from one-shotting you, especially as a tank, right? And you're going to scale back up with your Warmongs and your ult and everything else. So it's no big deal. You just need to survive the blast. Once you survive the blast, you're good. Thornmail is a very good item if they have massive amount of sustain, like a Trinamir, or just sustain or auto attack based champions. So Trinamir, Jax, Lucian, Vayne, that's really good items for them. Now, I mentioned Random Omen, right? Why would you like Random Omen and Thornmail? The big difference in there is the Grievous Wounds. Okay, both of them slow down your opponent's attack speed. The difference is Thornmail has Grievous Wounds to it, so it slows down their regen. Random Omen will slow down crit, so if it crit you, it's going to take less damage. So the reason why you want to build Random Omen over a Thornmail is if they have non-auto-based champions, okay? And this is subjective on your opinion, what you define an auto-based champion is. Auto-based champions to me is like Trinamir, Jax, Vayne, Lucian. They auto the shit out of you, and that's what they're going for. Now, champions like Graves, for example, yeah, they're AD, they're bursty, but they don't have huge amounts of sustain, and they don't have a lot of autos. Jhin, I don't consider that a very auto-based champion. He has 4 shots. He doesn't even build attack speed really hardly. The reason being is because he strives on his crit damage. His crit damage is what's going to get you. So building a Random Omen over a Thornmail is going to be more useful against somebody like a Jhin that's fed than what Thornmail would be, because he's not building for sustain, he's building for crits. He's still going to hit you hard. Frozen Mallet was the other item that we were discussing. Frozen Mallet I like over, like, a lot of people will question me about Titanic Hydra. I do think Titanic Hydra do a lot of damage, but at the end of the day, Mundo's damage is based on his health, okay? So I'd rather take the item that gives me the most health. But then also too though, and usually you will hardly ever see me build a Frozen Mallet, and you will never really see me build a Titanic Hydra. This is because Mundo does damage based off his health. He doesn't do damage based off his AD ratios. It's better to build health and build stats. So you're building health to make you to do the damage, and you're building stats to make you tanky, right? It doesn't matter this item gives you 500 more health. How League works is the stats will reduce percentages based off the attack that you're given to that's being done to you, and they're huge percentages that they're taking out. If you ever look on your clip, like you go back to your stats and actually hover over like armor, it'll tell you the percentage that they're taking out. And League of Legends does a huge amount of damage. You have this ability does 1,000 damage, and you're wondering why I can't one shot an ADC with it, because they'll have natural armor, natural magic result built into them, right? And they'll build items that help them out, like GA. Now, That's why I say you build stats over it, because you're going to drastically reduce the percentage of the max attack that is being done to you. Okay, so you're building damage and you're building tankiness at the same time. Whereas AD, you don't do damage off of AD ratios. Your Q does magic damage, your W does magic damage. So if you build AD, you're literally only building it for one ability. Your E is the only thing that does. And you have no dashes. You can't jump around. You can't catch them. Right? It's not efficient. Most of the time you kill opponent because you're queuing them to death. And a lot of times you're just absorbing damage anyways. A lot of times you're on the tank. You're just kind of like, you're just in the front taking damage from the ADC or whatever. So that way you can melt whatever front line that jumped in your back line. More so than you're trying to dive the ADC. If you do dive the ADC, how much damage do you really need extra to kill off the ADC? Because Mundo's E does a lot of damage in itself. His Q does a lot of damage in itself because it works off their health. So that's why I build health items that give you armor and give you stats more so than building the damage items. Now, Frozen Mallet's my exception, right? Frozen Mallet, I will build Frozen Mallet if they're not very bursty on their side. They only have a couple of carries and the rest of them are tanks. And I usually only build it if the carries are mobile. So if they have, for example, a Ezreal and he's doing a lot of damage, I want the Ezreal down. Ezreal doesn't Ezreal, like if you're eating him and you get hold of him and you start autoing him, the Frozen Mallet's gonna slow him. And I like the slow effect. Like, yeah, it gives me a little more damage, but I like the slow effect it does though. And that's the reason why I build that over any other damage item, and sometimes I'll build that, but only in that specific thing. Now if they have a lot of carries, right, it doesn't do me any good just to slow one particular carry and get one shot by the rest of them. So that's why I'm just like, I'd rather build stats, be that tank, be that wall for my team, and then we can kill them all off by me kiting back and forth and taking the damage in and out. So that's my itemization, little speech there, and how I itemize. So just remember, you got your 3 core items, and then you have that list I gave you as far as other items. And people are gonna have different opinions on it, but that's how I play Mundo, and that's how I found the most success with the Mundo. Next subject we'll cover is split push versus group, and this is a big one. I will do a full talk show over the mentality of a split pusher and when you need a split push and when do you need a group as a top laner. But for Mundo in particular, right, there's moments when you want to split push and there's moments when you want a group. And I even said Mundo does have good split push abilities. Whereas if you play like a Maokai, you hardly ever want to split push. You want to clear the wave and immediately group with your team, right? Mundo is a little bit different. You have the option of split push because your ult will get you away from hairy situations. And his E does a lot of damage to towers. Maokai is immobile. He doesn't have a lot of damage unless you're building Iceborne. Then you can kind of split push, but even then it's very questionable. You'd rather just group. Mundo can do a little bit of both. So this is ever changing. So I'm going to give you criteria. This is a broad criteria of when you split push, when you group. A game is ever changing, right? There will be moments where the enemy team reacts in this situation. I have always split pushed and I've always done well with it. And you'll have this one game where you split push and it just happens to lose your game. This is going to happen, guys. It's going to happen, right? And you'll probably get blamed for it. It's hard not life, right? But it will happen, right? So this is criteria. This is the broad spectrum, okay? Broad spectrum of criteria of when to split push, when to group, right? So split pushing. You split push when you're ahead, right? So usually this is fine when your team's ahead, or when you're ahead early. So when your team is ahead, or when you're ahead early as an individual. So if I kill off my enemy's tower within 6 minutes or 7 minutes, like something ridiculous because I just dominated them, what I want to do is I want to make the rest of the map, because I'm still low stats. I just can't go in bot lane and dive them. I'm still low stats. I'm only like level 6 or so. I can't dive them yet. It'd be really dumb because I'm not tanky yet. So what you want to do is you want to split push, okay? If you get it early, you split push. And you be careful, okay? Especially if you got ahead because you were killing your enemy opponents, you have a huge bounty on you. What is going to happen if you split push, even if your team's slightly behind in the early game, is you'll split push and the jungler will come up and try to fight you and they'll try to 2v1 you. And this is why you got to be careful. You have to anticipate this. This is what's going to happen, right? They're going to come up. Now this is a good thing, okay? This is a good thing. Recognize it and use it to your advantage. Don't get in the mindset of like, man, I could push so much farther if the enemy jungle wasn't here. Don't have that mindset. It's a good thing. Because the rest of the map is fighting in 4 versus 3. Alright? you gave them a number advantage. So if they're slightly behind, they'll probably catch back up because your jungle has free roam because the enemy jungler is so focused on you and trying to get, this tilter, this feeder. They're trying to catch them back up. Okay, this is a good thing. It's going to catch your other lanes back up or get them ahead. Now, still keep an eye out for teleport plays. Still keep an eye out for roams. Do the triangle farmers we were talking about. Make sure you're warding the enemy jungle buff up there. Make sure you're getting the scuttle crab. The scuttle crab will also help with your split push, just in case he's coming behind you through the river. And keep your areas warded. Make sure you have that warded. When you see the enemy jungler come up, don't try to 2v1 them unless you have a lot. I do it. I 1v2 a lot, but I have a lot of experience in Mundo, and I try to calculate, okay, this guy's this fed, this guy's this way. Can I beat them based off the items I have? It just comes to experience. You will be able to get more experience with that. If you're new to Mundo, I recommend just not 2v1ing. Just put the pressure on it. After he comes up, kind of back off, go farm the jungle, or just wait there for a second until he pushes up, and then he comes back. Camp yourself. So if the enemy jungler comes up, right, you push in the tower, enemy jungler comes up, you come back, you might do the scuttle crab, go up into a bush that you know is not warded, and sit there and wait until your opponent pushes that up. Once he's even with you where the wave's at, jump on him and kill him again. You abuse him. Make him want to quit, okay? But that's the time when you split push, when you're ahead, okay? When your team's ahead, late game, mid game, late game, when your team's ahead and you're confident they can 4v5, that is when you split push side lanes, okay? When you're confident they can 4v5. And let your team know, try to let them know. A lot of times they'll fight anyways, but try to let them know what you're doing, right? That is very situational, and you have to determine for yourself whether or not your team's ahead enough to 4v5. Because you can get a lot more out of it by split pushing than grouping and be like, wow, there's all 5. I don't want to fight them. Because what ends up happening is if your team's ahead, if you all 5 group, they're just going to stay in the tower and you're just stalling the game. And stalling the game is not necessarily a good thing because what they're going to do is they're going to scale up eventually. So split pushing a side lane is good. And also because even in mid-game, you're still only like level 12 or so, right? You're only level 12. You don't have your full items. So getting that solo XP and that solo experience points while your team is either just going even with them or maybe slightly beating them or maybe slightly losing, you're actually scaling. You're actually scaling faster than anybody else on the map. So it's a good thing to split push, right? And I'll go over a full video of split push and have like legitimate hey, this is why and this is what it is. Now when do you group? When you group is when your team is either losing, right? If you're losing overall, group. Even if you won your laning phase and the rest of the team is suffering, group. Especially if you won your laning phase because you're all the gold. Group with them because what ends up happening is vice versa, right? If they're on the winning side, a lot of times you get a fed player or another individual that's going to push aside. If it's the fed player that's 7-0, all that gold that the team has, maybe they have a 4K gold lead on you, right? But that guy has 6K of the gold, so you're actually ahead in gold within that team fight. So group when you're behind, try to win those team fight engagements, be that wall for your team, and slowly catch back up, okay? Fighting for objectives is another time you want to group. Dragon's up, you go and you try to fight for dragon, you group with the team, you fight for that dragon, fight for that baron, wherever the big objectives are, you want to group with them. And it's very rare you never want to not group with them unless you're fixing to close out the game or you're fixing to backdoor them or something crazy like that. But usually it's better to even play that safe route and just get the objective because if you're winning, you're going to win that team fight anyways. So it's better just to group for the objectives, all right? And so that's the difference between split pushing and grouping. So to recap, you split push when you're ahead early, you got the tower early, or your team's ahead. You group when your team is either behind or you're fighting for objectives, okay? Very broad spectrum. It's ever changing whichever game you play. Team fighting with Mundo. You don't have any hard CC like I've mentioned several times. You're literally a punching bag. You're just absorbing damage is all you're doing as Mundo, okay? And there's 2 ways to team fight. There's 2 ways to team fight with the Mundo, and it's ever changing. One will work for one team, one won't work for the other team, okay? You either have 2 things. You either stand in the front of your carries, right? Pretty much engulf a player. Like a player dives your carries, you stand in front so the carries don't follow up that tank or that diver. And you stand in front and fight the carries, absorb the damage, use your ultimate while they're fighting the diver, right? And you start melting the front line. You start from front to back. That's one way to fight, okay? That is very good if your carries are immobile, okay? If they're immobile, that's very good because they can't get away when that diver dives. So give them the advantage that your team has a 4v1 on them while you're blocking out the rest of the team, right? And don't just stand there, throw cleavers, run back and forth, make sure you're dodging skill shots, make sure you're moving, but you're absorbing damage, you're being a distraction more or less, right? The other way to team fight is you chase down carries. Okay, if you're confident in your build, like your ADCs or whatever, they're good. You chase down the carries. You literally ult and you run straight for the guy that does the most damage. Okay, and your carries will follow up and you'll just push through. Right, you'll kill them off. Know your limits when you do that. Know, like, hey, I'm fixing to die, and you flash out, and you start walking backwards. I'm fixing to run out of health. Sometimes that can be a big thing. Like, you run after a carry, you start getting low, you start running backwards. They would chase you thirsty for that kill, and then your carries just hit them and kill that carry off. Sometimes that works. They get thirsty because you're low, and you got the regen, but you keep having this small little health. It goes down a little bit, goes back up, goes down a little bit, back up. So that sometimes can work in your favor. And like I said, this is ever changing. Sometimes you're trying to play one style and you keep losing a team fight. Evaluate yourself. Don't be like, hey, my carries are fucking up, they're doing this. Evaluate yourself. Be like, hey, maybe I should not dive the carries and just pill for them and see if that works. I've had to do that sometimes myself, right? And that's nothing to be embarrassed about because, again, one will work for one game, one won't for the other thing. The good players are not going to complain. They are going to go back and they are going to evaluate and be like, okay, what did I do wrong here? Even in the middle of the game, that's how you turn a losing game into a winning game, or a game that your team's starting to catch up on you, and then you switch your play style and you finally end it. You finally do the final push. So definitely evaluate yourself. Ult timings in team fights are very important. Ults, Mundo, to activate his ult, he regens 60% of his maximum health. In order for you to activate your ult, you have to take out 40% of your current health. That's huge. This is a huge chunk, okay? So, like, you know, it's crazy. If you're at 200 health, you just took out 80 health from you, you know? So, you don't want to activate your ultimate right off the bat. As soon as you start, like, you don't want to activate your ultimate when you're really low. Don't hold on to it. You want to activate your ult near the beginning, okay? Usually it's not like right off the bat, but as soon as you start taking damage, you know the engagement is going to happen. That's when you activate the ult. Don't run at them and ult, because for one, you're not regening anything. Because you took out 40% of your health, but it went back up really quickly, and you're not regening anything. Because what's going to happen is, as you're running after them, they're kiting backwards. They're running away from you. They're not going to fight you. They're not dumb. They're going to let you use your ultimate and then turn on you when your ultimate's done. So do it after you're already engaged, but don't hold on to it for very long because it might actually work against you. Your ult, like I've had team fights before. I've had solo fights where I thought I was good. I need to blow the ultimate, and then I'm like, oh, I'm fixing to die, and literally hitting the R button is what killed me. Not because they're damaged. The hitting the R button is what killed me. And that takes experience, and even as an experienced Mundo, you'll mess up sometimes. But yeah, it drains your health, so be careful activating your ultimate. Alright, so we covered a lot of information in summary, right? How do you win as Mundo, okay? You scale and play safe during the laning phase, alright? You split push when you're ahead, group when you're behind. Be there for major objectives and major fights. And just work off Mundo's simple mechanics, right? Work on your rotations, play around the map, use your teleports when you're ahead, farm the jungle, make sure you get the other lanes behind. If you're behind, make sure you play Mundo correctly, use those mechanics, farm these towers, easy mechanics, and then scale back up. Okay? You're just getting to raid boss status. That's all you need to do is get to raid boss status, right? Whether that means you're just split pushing all game, or you got a group and you gotta be that, you know, early raid boss or late game raid boss, you know? But hopefully you guys found this helpful. I know it's more or less like a guide than a talk show, but our talk show, we cover everything top lane. I myself I'm a Mundo main, that's why we're covering this first. We are going to switch over. We're going to do a Q&A segment with our chat that's here in the stream. So if you guys enjoy this content and you want to participate in it live, definitely check out my twitch.tv channel. I'll link it into the bio or the description if you're watching this on YouTube or any other type of media outlet source. And I stream every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can check out my twitch.tv channel. It'll actually have the full schedule. And if you're watching this at a later date and somehow the schedule changed, you can find the schedule on there. And as I said, we'll do a Q&A section after every talk. So if you want to participate in that, definitely check me out.